Hello, I'm Meghan Hof from Gathering Light Photography, and I'm here to answer a really common question. Why are all my photos blurry? Here's what we'll cover in this video. Exactly why your photos are blurry and ways to fix it. Here's 3 reasons why your photos might be blurry. 1 is not focusing correctly. 2 is trying to take photos in low light and your camera trying to compensate for that. And finally, if you are moving, or very likely, if your subject is moving. Problems focusing. This happens when you want to take a picture of, for example, your child standing in front of the camera, but your camera lens decides to focus on the background instead of on the subject. You can fix this by making sure that you check what you're focusing on before you push the button down all the way to take the picture. So as you push the button down halfway, a little red box will appear and it will show you what it's focusing on. If it is focusing on what you would like it to, then you can push the button down the rest of the way to take the picture. If it's focusing on the background instead of on the subject, then you lift your finger up and try it again. A lot of problems with blurry photos happen when you're trying to photograph something in low light. Your camera is needing light to take the picture. It wants the photo to be properly exposed. So it's using 2 different things to try to get the correct exposure. How wide the lens is opening, which is called the aperture, and how fast or slow the shutter speed is. When there's limited light, oftentimes your camera will slow down the shutter speed, meaning that it stays open longer so more light can come into the camera and it could get a proper exposure. So this is what happens really often when you are shooting on auto mode on your DSLR. So you put your DSLR, that fancy camera of yours, on that green box, which is the auto mode, and the camera makes choices for you. So when you're in a low light, kind of dark situation, your camera is thinking, ooh, I need more light, I need this photo to be properly exposed, and so it's keeping that shutter open longer. And then as soon as you move or your subject moves, whoosh, the photo is completely blurry. So if the photographer moves when they're taking a photo and the camera shakes a little bit, you get a blurry photo. It's called camera shake. There's very easy ways to fix this. You can steady yourself, maybe rest up against a wall or a table as you take the picture so that your arms are steady. You can also steady the camera, perhaps on a tripod. And you could do both of these things. For example, use a tripod and then set a timer. So the timer would go off and you wouldn't be shaking the camera as you were pushing the button down. The other problem happens when your subject is moving. And if you're photographing children, aren't they always moving? Easy ways to fix this? Can't really steady them. Can't ask them to stop moving. So what do? Well, you can learn how to control the shutter speed. You can start by learning how to put your camera in shutter priority mode. If you look in your camera manual or look up your camera manual online, it will tell you which button that is, which setting that is on your particular camera. And once you have that, then you can set your shutter speed and the camera will set all the other settings for you. So you only have to do one thing at a time. You're going to set your shutter speed to no slower than 1/60th of a second. A slower shutter speed would be something like 1/30th of a second or 1/15th of a second, but you're going to make sure you're at 1/60th of a second or higher. So once you do that, your shutter is going to be moving faster, which means less light is getting into the picture. So if your camera is not able to compensate with the more open aperture or other things, then your photos will look a little bit darker. Don't stress too much. It's best to learn things one at a time. So we're talking about shutter speed right now. We can talk about aperture in another video, which is how open your lens is, and ISO is another thing that we can discuss. All of these things are working together to create the proper exposure in your photos. And if you try to learn them all at the same time and try to change them all at the same time, it can get really confusing. So let's just play with shutter speed right now and get the photos sharp and in focus. So take action now. Pick up your camera, dust it off, find out where that shutter priority mode is on your camera, and pay attention to what you're setting your shutter speed at, and then see what difference it makes. Notice when the photos look sharper, when they are bright enough, and when you still need more light. Once you have that down and you're ready to learn something else, then you can move on to learning the other pieces of proper exposure, aperture and ISO, and the direction of light. And if you're ready to really learn more and learn what all of those fancy buttons on your fancy camera are for, and really learn how to take beautiful photos of your own family, then come see me at meghanhof.com/mamas-gonna-snap. I'll see you there.